My phone vibrates in my hand, just as I'm reaching for another champagne flute from the passing waiter's tray. It's Amanda. My daughter never calls during the day unless it's important, so I excuse myself from the conversation with Mary's friends and step toward the quieter hallway of this enormous house my niece somehow managed to rent in Brookline. "Where are you, Mom?" There's something in her voice that makes my stomach tighten. It's not her usual tone. It's sharp, controlled in that way that tells me she's trying very hard not to panic. "I'm at Mary's birthday party, sweetheart. Remember? I told you this morning I'd be here for a few hours. Why? What's wrong?" Silence. Just 2 seconds of it, but it feels like an eternity. "Get out of there, right now. Take Sophie with you and leave immediately." My heart stops. Sophie. My 7-year-old granddaughter is outside in the garden with the other children, probably covered in grass stains by now, laughing that beautiful laugh that sounds like bells. "Amanda, what are you talking about? What's happened?" "Mom, I don't have time to explain everything. You need to trust me right now. Find Sophie, don't tell anyone you're leaving, and get to your car as fast as you can. Please." The desperation in her voice cuts through every instinct I have to ask more questions. My daughter is a corporate attorney. She doesn't panic. She doesn't make dramatic demands without reason. If Amanda is telling me to run, there's a reason to run. "Okay," I hear myself say. "Okay, I'm going now." I end the call and my hands are shaking. I look around this pristine house with its marble floors and expensive artwork that I know for a fact my niece cannot afford. Mary's been posting photos for weeks about this party, showing off designer dresses and jewelry that cost more than most people make in a month. I pushed away the uncomfortable questions because I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to be the good aunt, the generous family member who didn't judge. I move quickly through the crowd of 20-somethings, all holding drinks and taking selfies. The music is too loud. Everyone is too happy. I feel like I'm in a nightmare where I'm the only person who knows the building is on fire. The French doors leading to the garden are open. I step outside and scan the yard. There she is, Sophie, in her pink dress with the white flowers, playing tag with 3 other children near the rose bushes. Her blonde hair is falling out of the braid I did this morning. She's perfect and innocent, and I need to get her away from here right now. "Sophie, baby, come here, please." She turns and her face lights up when she sees me. "Grandma, look how fast I can run." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Come here for just a moment." She runs over, cheeks flushed with excitement. I kneel down to her level, trying to keep my voice calm and normal, even though my heart is hammering so hard I can hear it in my ears. "We need to go now, honey. Something came up and we need to leave." Her face falls. "But Grandma, we haven't had cake yet. Mary said there's going to be a huge cake with sparklers." "I know, baby. I'm sorry. But Mommy needs us and we have to go right away. We can get ice cream on the way home, okay?" She studies my face with those intelligent blue eyes she inherited from her father. Even at 7, she can sense when something is wrong. "Is Mommy okay?" "Mommy's fine, but she needs to see us. Come on." I take her hand and start walking toward the side gate that leads to the front driveway where I parked. We're almost there when I hear Diane's voice behind us. "Evelyn, where are you going?" I turn, and there's my sister-in-law, looking immaculate as always in her cream-colored designer dress, her dark hair perfectly styled, holding a glass of white wine. She's smiling, but there's something in her eyes I've never quite been able to read. For 20 years of family gatherings, I've tried to connect with this woman. I've bought her expensive gifts, included her in everything, treated her like the sister I never had. And for 20 years, she's looked at me with this same expression that I always told myself was just her reserved personality. "Amanda needs us," I say, pulling Sophie closer to my side. "We have to go." "Oh, what a shame. We were just about to cut the cake. Can't it wait just a few more minutes?" "No, I'm afraid it can't. Please give Mary our apologies. It's a lovely party." I don't wait for her response. I keep walking, practically dragging Sophie now, who's starting to whine about missing the cake. We round the corner of the house, and my car is there. My beautiful silver Mercedes that Richard bought me for our 30th anniversary. Safety. Escape. Whatever Amanda knows, whatever danger she sensed, we're almost away from it. I fumble with my keys, my hands still shaking, and get Sophie buckled into her booster seat in the back. She's asking questions I'm not answering because I don't have answers. I slide into the driver's seat, and that's when I see it. A large manila envelope sitting on my seat. My name is written across the front in Amanda's handwriting. My hands are trembling so badly I can barely open it, but I manage to tear the seal and pull out the contents. Photographs spill into my lap. I pick up the first one, and my blood turns to ice. It's Mary, my niece, my brother's daughter, standing with two men I don't recognize. They're in what looks like a parking garage. One of the men has tattoos covering his neck. The other is handing Mary a thick envelope. The timestamp on the photo says it was taken 3 weeks ago. I set it aside and pick up the next one. Mary again, this time in a restaurant, sitting across from a different man. This one is older, wearing an expensive suit, and the look on his face is predatory. Mary's leaning forward, smiling that bright smile she uses when she wants something. There are at least 20 photographs. I rifle through them quickly, my heart sinking with each one. Mary with different men. Mary accepting packages. Mary at a bank with a briefcase. Mary at what appears to be a nightclub with people who look dangerous. But it's not just photographs. There are printed WhatsApp conversations. I pull out the first page and start reading. The conversation is between Mary and someone saved in her phone as D. It doesn't take me long to realize D is Diane, my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, Mary. Mom, are you sure about tonight? I'm getting nervous. D. Don't be stupid. Everything is arranged. Victor will be there at 7. You do exactly what we discussed. Mary. What if someone notices? D. No one will notice. It's your birthday party. Everyone will be too busy taking photos and drinking. Besides, your aunt will be there with Sophie. If anything goes wrong, she makes the perfect cover. I read that last line 3 times. My hands have stopped shaking. Now they're just cold. I flip to the next page. This conversation is older, dated 6 months ago. D. Your father is finally starting to see what I've been telling him for years. Evelyn thinks she's better than all of us. Mary. She did seem kind of condescending when she offered to pay for that course, like I'm too stupid to make it on my own. D. Exactly. She wants to control everyone with her money, but we're going to change that. I've been working on something. Mary. What kind of something? D. Patience, sweetheart. Trust your mother. By this time next year, we'll be the ones with the power in this family. I set down the phone conversations and pick up what looks like bank statements. They're Mary's accounts. I shouldn't be looking at these, but I can't stop myself. The numbers don't make sense. Deposits of $50,000, $80,000, $120,000, all within the last 3 months. For a girl who couldn't hold down a job as a marketing assistant, these numbers are impossible. There's a sticky note attached to one of the statements. Amanda's handwriting again. Money laundering through fake consulting services. She's working for a drug trafficking operation. My vision blurs. I blink and realize I'm crying. Sophie is quiet in the back seat, probably scared by my tears. I wipe my face quickly and keep reading because I need to understand. I need to know how bad this is. The next document is a printed email. It's from Diane to someone named Patricia, a woman I vaguely remember from one of Thomas's work events years ago. Patricia, I'm so glad we're getting together for lunch next week. I've been meaning to talk to you about something. I'm worried about my husband's relationship with his sister. Evelyn has always been so controlling with money, and I think it's affecting Thomas's self-esteem. She paid for his business, and now she holds it over his head. Between you and me, I think she enjoys having power over him. It's not healthy. I'm trying to help him establish boundaries, but it's difficult when she's always inserting herself into our lives with her generosity. Anyway, looking forward to catching up. XOXO Diane. I remember Thomas's business, his architecture firm that needed capital 8 years ago. I gave him $200,000. I never asked for it back. I never mentioned it again. I thought I was helping my little brother achieve his dream. There are more emails like this. Diane writing to mutual friends, to neighbors, to people at their church, all with the same theme. Poor Diane, dealing with controlling Evelyn. Rich Evelyn, who doesn't understand what it's like to struggle. Generous Evelyn, who's actually just manipulative. 20 years of poison, carefully distributed, meticulously crafted. The last document in the envelope is a printed conversation between Diane and Mary from just 2 days ago. D. Everything is set for Saturday. Victor confirmed he'll be there at 7. Make sure the transaction happens in your bedroom upstairs. I'll keep everyone distracted downstairs. Mary. What about Aunt Evelyn? She said she's bringing Sophie. D. Perfect. If the police somehow find out and show up, having Evelyn there is ideal. Can you imagine the headlines? Wealthy Boston businesswoman present at drug bust at niece's party. Her reputation would be destroyed, and she brought her granddaughter to a place like that. Social services would have a field day. Mary. Mom, that seems really harsh. D. Don't go soft on me now. This is what we've been working toward. Once Evelyn is disgraced, your father will finally see her for what she really is. We can contest any inheritance claims, argue she manipulated him for years. This is our chance, Mary. Don't waste it. Mary. Okay, 7 o'clock. I'll make sure Aunt Evelyn is still here by then. I sit in my car, staring at these words, and I feel something inside me break and then immediately harden into something else, something cold and clear. My phone rings. Amanda again. Mom, please tell me you're out of there. Please tell me you found the envelope. I found it. My voice sounds strange to my own ears, flat, distant. Mom, I'm so sorry. I know this is devastating, but you need to understand what's about to happen. The police are going to raid that party in approximately 25 minutes. An associate at my firm has been working on the Victor Petrov case. When Mary's name came up in the investigation 2 days ago, he called me immediately. I've spent the last 48 hours with a private investigator gathering everything you're holding right now. 25 minutes, I repeat. Yes, Mary is going to be arrested. Victor and his associates will be arrested. Anyone at that party could potentially be held for questioning. That's why I needed you and Sophie out of there. If you'd been present during the raid, even innocently, Diane would have used it against you. I have evidence she's been planning exactly that. I look up at the house through my windshield. The music is still playing. People are still laughing. My niece is about to have her life destroyed. My sister-in-law orchestrated this, and part of her plan was to destroy me too. There's more, isn't there? I ask. In that envelope. I didn't get to everything. Amanda's voice cracks. Mom, there are recordings. Diane talking to her friends about you, years of it, saying terrible things, making you sound like a monster. I have testimony from 3 different people who say Diane actively tried to turn them against you at social events. And the plan with Thomas, she's been working on him for over a decade, slowly convincing him that you're controlling, that you look down on them, that your help is actually manipulation. Does he believe it? I have to know. Does Thomas believe I'm trying to control him? Silence on the other end. Then quietly, I think part of him does, Mom. I think Diane's been very, very good at this. Sophie's voice comes from the back seat, small and scared. Grandma, why are you crying? I look at her in the rearview mirror. 7 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, innocent, mine to protect. I'm okay, baby. Grandma just needs a minute. I turn back to Amanda on the phone. What do I do now? You drive to my house. Right now. I have copies of everything. We're going to sit down and go through all of it. Then we're going to decide how to handle this. But Mom, you need to understand something. This isn't just about Mary's crimes. This is about Diane's systematic attempt to isolate you, discredit you, and potentially destroy you financially and socially. What she did is calculated and cruel, and it's been happening for years while you were being generous and kind. I start the car. My hands are steady now. The crying has stopped. I'm on my way to your house. Call Richard. Tell him to meet us there. We need to be together for this. Already done. He's leaving his golf game now. Mom? Yes? I'm sorry I didn't push harder before. I knew Diane was off. I told you for years something wasn't right. But I should have investigated sooner. I should have protected you better. My fierce daughter. My brilliant, protective daughter who just saved me from a trap I never saw coming. You protected me today. That's what matters. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I end the call and pull out of the driveway. In my rearview mirror, I can see the house getting smaller. That beautiful house with its perfect party and its terrible secrets. In approximately 20 minutes, police will swarm that property. Mary will be led away in handcuffs. Diane's plan will collapse. And I drove away just in time, warned by the one person in my family who truly loves me without agenda or manipulation. Sophie is quiet in the back seat, sensing that something monumental has happened, even if she doesn't understand what. I reach back and squeeze her small hand. Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart, Grandma promises. But as I drive through the streets of Brookline toward Cambridge, toward Amanda's house, toward whatever comes next, I know that nothing will ever be quite okay again. Because now I know the truth. 20 years of family dinners and holidays and gifts and kindness, and underneath it all, my sister-in-law hated me. She poisoned my brother against me. She raised her daughter to see me as an enemy. And today, she tried to use me as a shield for her daughter's crimes. The envelope sits on the passenger seat next to me, full of evidence that will change everything. Proof that I've been living in a carefully constructed lie. Proof that the family I thought I had was something else entirely. I don't know yet what I'm going to do with all of this information, but I know one thing with absolute certainty as I turn onto the highway. Diane made a fatal mistake. She underestimated my daughter. She assumed Amanda was like me, willing to keep the peace at any cost, willing to look past warning signs for the sake of family harmony. But Amanda is not like me. Amanda is a warrior, and she just saved me from destruction. I need to explain how I got here, how a woman who built a real estate empire from nothing, who negotiated million-dollar deals with sharks in suits, who never let anyone push her around in the boardroom, could be so completely blind to what was happening in her own family. It started 35 years ago, before Diane even existed in our lives. I was 22 years old, fresh out of college with a business degree and more ambition than sense. Thomas was 17, still in high school, still my baby brother, who I'd practically raised since our parents died in a car accident when I was 20. He was my responsibility, my only family, and I was determined to give him everything our parents would have wanted him to have. I met Richard at a real estate networking event 6 months after graduating. He was a financial consultant, 8 years older than me, steady and solid in a way that felt like safety after years of uncertainty. We married within a year. He supported my dream of starting my own real estate investment company, even when everyone else said I was too young, too female, too ambitious. With his help managing the finances and my instinct for undervalued properties, we built something remarkable. By the time I was 30, I had a portfolio worth $3 million. By 40, it was $15 million. When I retired 2 years ago at 55, Richard and I had more money than we could spend in 3 lifetimes. But through all of it, Thomas was there. I paid for his college. I paid for his architecture degree from one of the best schools in the country. When he graduated and wanted to start his own firm, I gave him $200,000 without hesitation. Not a loan, a gift. Because that's what family does, right? You help each other. You lift each other up. He met Diane when he was 28. She was 23, working as a manager at an upscale boutique in Newbury Street. Pretty, polished, with this way of smiling that never quite reached her eyes. I remember the first time Thomas brought her to dinner at our house in Beacon Hill. She complimented everything. The furniture, the art, the wine, the meal I'd spent hours preparing. But there was something underneath the compliments, something I couldn't name. Richard noticed it too. That night, after they left, he said to me, "There's something about her I don't trust." I laughed it off. I told him he was being overprotective of Thomas. I wish I'd listened. They got married within a year. I paid for half the wedding because Diane's family didn't have much money, and Thomas's architecture firm was still struggling to get established. $25,000 for a wedding at a country club with 200 guests and a band that Diane insisted was essential. I wrote the check gladly because I wanted my brother to be happy. I wanted his wife to feel welcomed into our family. Mary was born 2 years later. I was there at the hospital, holding my niece for the first time, feeling this overwhelming love for this tiny person who was family. I bought her nursery furniture. I set up a college fund with $50,000 in it before she was even a month old. When Thomas's firm finally went under after 5 years of struggling, when he had to declare bankruptcy and start over working for someone else's architecture company, I paid off their mortgage so they wouldn't lose their house. Another $150,000. I never asked for it back. I never even mentioned it after writing the check, This is who I am. This is who I've always been. My wealth was meant to be shared with the people I love. What's the point of having money if you can't use it to help your family? But Amanda saw things I didn't. Even as a little girl, she noticed the way Diane would accept my gifts with a tight smile. The way Diane would make little comments about how nice it must be to not worry about money, or some people have it so easy. Amanda would come home from visiting Thomas and Diane's house and tell me, "Mom, Aunt Diane said something weird today. She asked me if you ever talk about them at home. Like, if you ever say you think they're not as successful as you." I dismissed it. I told Amanda she was misunderstanding. I told her Diane was just insecure because of their financial struggles, and we needed to be understanding and kind. My daughter learned to stop telling me when something felt wrong. The years passed. Mary grew up. I paid for her private school education when Thomas and Diane couldn't afford it. $15,000 a year for 8 years. I paid for her summer camps, her music lessons, her college application consultant. When she got into Boston University, I offered to pay the full tuition. Diane insisted Mary take out student loans instead. She said it would build character. Mary dropped out after 2 years anyway, deciding she wanted to be a social media influencer instead of finishing her communications degree. I tried to be supportive. I took her to lunch, suggested she might want to have a backup plan, offered to pay for professional development courses in marketing or business. She looked at me like I'd insulted her. Diane called Thomas that night, and he called me, his voice strained, saying I needed to respect Mary's choices and stop looking down on her career path. That was the first time I realized something had shifted. My brother, my baby brother who I raised, was speaking to me like I was the villain. I tried to explain that I was only trying to help, that I wanted Mary to have options. He cut me off. "Diane thinks you've never respected her, and now you're doing the same thing to Mary. Maybe you need to examine why you always think you know better than everyone else." I cried after that phone call. Richard held me and said we should create some distance, that Thomas and Diane needed to work through their issues without our involvement. But I couldn't do it. He was my brother. Mary was my niece. I didn't want distance. I wanted family. So I tried harder. More gifts, more invitations to dinner, more attempts to show them I loved them, that I wasn't looking down on anyone, that I just wanted us to be close. Last Christmas, I bought Diane a Cartier bracelet worth $8,000. She wore it once at Christmas dinner, and I never saw it on her wrist again. I bought Mary a new laptop for her content creation and paid for a professional photography course. She posted one photo from the course on Instagram and never mentioned it again. Amanda graduated from law school and started working at one of Boston's top corporate law firms. She met James, a fellow attorney, and they married 3 years ago. Sophie was born a year later. Through all of this, Amanda maintained polite distance from Thomas and Diane. She came to family gatherings because I asked her to, but she never stayed long. She never let Sophie spend time alone with Mary. When I asked why, she said, "Mom, I don't trust them. I can't explain it, but something is wrong there. Please don't push me on this." I pushed anyway. I wanted Sophie to know her extended family. I wanted her to have cousins and aunts and uncles. I wanted the big, loving family I never had growing up after our parents died. So I brought Sophie to family events. I let her play with Mary. I insisted to Amanda that she was being too harsh, too judgmental. My daughter started sharing less with me. The distance between us grew, and I told myself it was just her being busy with work and motherhood. I didn't see that she was protecting herself, protecting Sophie, protecting me, even though I wouldn't let her. 6 months ago, Thomas called me. He needed money again. His firm was restructuring, and they were cutting his salary. Could I help with their mortgage payment for a few months, just until things stabilized? I transferred $20,000 that same day. Diane sent me a thank you text that was 3 words long. "Thanks for helping." 2 months ago, Mary announced she was having this big birthday party. She was turning 25 and wanted to celebrate properly. She showed me pictures of the house she was going to rent in Brookline. It cost $15,000 just to rent for 1 day. I asked her how she could afford that. She laughed and said she had new business partnerships that were finally paying off. She said she was working with investors who believed in her brand. I wanted to ask more questions. Something felt off. But I didn't want to be the aunt who was always doubting, always questioning, always looking down on her choices. So I smiled and said I was happy for her success. When she invited me to the party, I said I'd love to come. When she asked if I could bring Sophie because she barely knew her little cousin, I agreed immediately. See? I wasn't judgmental, I was supportive. Richard tried to talk to me the morning of the party. He said something felt wrong about the whole situation. Where was Mary getting this kind of money? Why was Diane suddenly so friendly, calling me more often, inviting us over for dinner? Why did Thomas seem nervous every time we spoke? I kissed my husband and told him he worried too much. I told him I was going to enjoy my niece's party and spend time with family and stop looking for problems where there were none. I loaded Sophie into my car and drove to Brookline, determined to be the good aunt, the generous family member, the woman who always showed up and always gave and always loved, unconditionally. And that's how I ended up standing in that perfect house with my champagne flute, completely unaware that I was standing in the middle of a trap, that my sister-in-law had spent 20 years poisoning my family against me, that my niece was involved with drug traffickers, that this party, which I thought was a celebration, was actually designed to be my destruction. I thought I was being kind. I thought I was being generous. I thought I was building the family I always wanted. I was actually funding my own assassination. Character assassination, social assassination, and possibly even legal destruction, all wrapped up in a pretty package with a bow. And I never saw it coming because I was too busy trying to be good. Too busy trying to prove I wasn't the controlling, condescending person Diane had apparently been telling everyone I was for 2 decades. The worst part? I'm sitting here in my car, driving to Amanda's house with this envelope full of evidence, and I'm realizing that my daughter knew. She's known for years that something was wrong. She tried to tell me. She tried to protect me. And I shut her down every single time because I wanted so desperately to believe in the family I thought I had. I chose the fantasy over my daughter's wisdom, and it almost cost me everything. I pull into Amanda's driveway in Cambridge 22 minutes later. Her house is a beautiful Victorian she and James bought 3 years ago, nothing compared to the mansion Richard and I own in Beacon Hill, but it's warm and filled with love, and suddenly it feels like the only safe place in the world. Before I can even unbuckle my seatbelt, Amanda is running down the front steps. She pulls open my door and I see her face. My strong, composed daughter who argues cases in front of judges without flinching, has tears streaming down her cheeks. She pulls me out of the car and into her arms, and we just stand there in her driveway, holding each other while Sophie watches from the back seat with wide, confused eyes. "I'm so sorry, Mom," Amanda whispers into my hair. "I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I needed proof. I needed you to see it with your own eyes, because I knew you wouldn't believe me otherwise." I pull back and look at my daughter. She's 32, but right now she looks young and scared and fierce all at once. "How long have you known? That something was wrong? Years? That it was this bad?" 48 hours. James appears at the front door holding their 1-year-old son, Michael. "Evelyn, come inside." Richard just pulled up. I turn and see my husband's car stopping behind mine. He gets out, still wearing his golf shirt, his face gray with worry. In 35 years of marriage, I've seen Richard angry maybe 5 times. Right now, he looks murderous. We get Sophie out of the car and bring her inside. Amanda's nanny, a sweet college student named Maria, takes Sophie and Michael upstairs to play. Bless her. The 4 of us sit in Amanda's living room, and I place the envelope on the coffee table like it's a bomb. Which, in a way, it is. "Richard," Amanda says, "I'm going to lay everything out. Some of it you know. Most of it you don't. And Mom, some of this is going to hurt worse than what you've already seen." My husband reaches over and takes my hand. His palm is warm and steady. "Show us everything." For the next hour, Amanda walks us through her investigation. She's made a presentation on her laptop, organized like the attorney she is, with exhibits and timelines and evidence carefully documented. She starts with the phone call she got 2 days ago from Marcus Chen, an associate at her firm who works in criminal defense. Marcus has been working on the Victor Petrov case for 6 months, Amanda explains. Victor runs a sophisticated drug trafficking operation through New England, mainly cocaine and prescription opioids. The DEA has been building a case against him for over a year. Marcus is defending one of Victor's lower-level associates who flipped and started cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. She clicks to the next slide. It's a surveillance photo of Mary with one of the tattooed men I saw in the envelope. 3 weeks ago, the cooperating witness gave the DEA a list of people Victor uses for money laundering. Mary's name was on that list. Marcus knows I'm Mary Hartwell's cousin. He called me immediately. Richard's hand tightens around mine. Jesus Christ. It gets worse, Amanda says quietly. She clicks again. Now there's a bank transaction history on the screen. Mary has been receiving payments from shell companies linked to Victor for the past 4 months. The money comes in as payment for social media consulting and digital marketing services. She then moves it through several accounts before it goes back out to various legitimate businesses that Victor uses as fronts. It's textbook money laundering. How much? I hear myself ask. In 4 months, just over $800,000 has moved through her accounts. The room spins. $800,000. My niece, who couldn't hold down a job at a marketing agency, has been laundering nearly $1 million for a drug dealer. Amanda clicks to another slide. The DEA planned to arrest Mary quietly, probably at her apartment. But then Marcus learned about the party. He called his DEA contact, and they realized something bigger was happening. Victor himself was going to be at the party. It was the perfect opportunity to catch him in the act of a major transaction. But why would Victor come to a party? James asks. That seems incredibly risky. Because Mary convinced him it was the perfect cover, Amanda says. A birthday party at a rented mansion in Brookline with 100 young people drinking and taking photos for Instagram. No one would look twice at Victor showing up as just another guest. He could conduct his business upstairs while everyone else was distracted downstairs. I think about that beautiful house, that loud music, all those people taking selfies. Perfect cover indeed. Amanda's voice gets harder. The DEA was planning to raid the party at 7:15. They wanted to catch Victor during the actual transaction. Marcus called me at noon today because he knew I'd want to warn you. He knows how close you are to Thomas and his family. He thought you'd want to give them a heads up. But you didn't warn them, Richard says. It's not a question. No. Amanda looks at me. Because I started digging deeper. I wanted to understand how Mary got involved with someone like Victor in the first place. So I hired a private investigator. She clicks to the next section of her presentation. This is David Brennan, former FBI, now runs his own investigation firm. I've used him for complex cases before. He's very good at finding things people don't want found. I gave him 48 hours to dig into Mary and Diane's activities. What comes next is worse than anything I imagined. David Brennan found bank accounts I didn't know existed, credit cards in Mary's name that Diane co-signed for, payment records for a lifestyle that far exceeded what Thomas's salary as an architect could support. The Cartier bracelet I bought Diane last Christmas, she sold it 3 weeks after receiving it for $6,000. The laptop I bought Mary, sold on eBay for $1,200 within a month. But it's not just the financial trail. David Brennan recorded conversations. He posed as various people, gathered information from Diane and Mary's friends, from neighbors, from people at their church, and what emerges is a portrait of systematic, calculated malice that takes my breath away. Amanda plays the first recording. It's Diane talking to a woman named Susan at a church coffee hour. The investigator had placed a recording device on Susan, who agreed to participate after David explained the situation. Diane's voice comes through clearly. I just feel so sorry for Thomas sometimes. His sister has always had everything so easy. She married a wealthy man. Her business practically ran itself, and now she's retired and traveling while we're still struggling to make ends meet. And the worst part is how she holds it over Thomas's head. Every time she gives us money, it comes with this unspoken expectation that we'll be grateful and do what she wants. It's exhausting. Susan's voice. That must be so difficult. It is. And now she's doing the same thing to Mary. Always offering to pay for things, but making Mary feel like she's not good enough. Like she needs Evelyn's help because she can't succeed on her own. It's really damaged Mary's confidence. I listened to my sister-in-law's voice, so smooth and sympathetic, painting me as a manipulative monster. The recording ends, and Amanda clicks to the next one. This time, it's Mary talking to one of her friends at a coffee shop. My aunt is coming to my party, and honestly, I wish she wasn't. She's going to judge everything. The house, the decorations, the guest list. She always has this look like she thinks she's better than everyone. My mom says she's been like that for years. The friend, why invite her then? Mary laughs. Because she'll probably give me money as a gift. Might as well get something out of her showing up. There are 7 more recordings. Each one worse than the last. Diane telling neighbors about my control issues. Mary telling friends about my condescending attitude. Both of them laughing about how easy it is to get money out of Evelyn. Richard stands up and walks to the window. His shoulders are rigid with anger. How long? He asks without turning around. How long has this been going on? Amanda pulls up a timeline. Based on what David found, Diane started making negative comments about Mom within 6 months of marrying Thomas. Small things at first, just enough to plant seeds. Over the years, it escalated. She's been systematically poisoning every relationship Mom has with mutual friends and family. She clicks to a new section. But the really damning evidence is this. It's a series of emails between Diane and someone named Robert Fletcher. I don't recognize the name. Amanda explains. Robert Fletcher is an attorney specializing in elder law and estate planning. Diane has been consulting with him for the past 3 years about contesting future inheritance claims. The emails are chilling in their calculation. Diane laying out her case that I've been manipulating Thomas through money for decades, that I've isolated him from other family members, that I've created a situation where he's financially dependent on me, and therefore any inheritance he receives should be questioned as the result of undue influence. She's been building a legal case against you for 3 years, Amanda says, planning ahead for when you and Dad pass away. She wants to argue that Thomas isn't in his right mind when it comes to you, that you've brainwashed him with your money, and that any inheritance he receives should be redistributed. To her, James adds quietly, she wants to make sure she gets control of Thomas's inheritance. I can't breathe. This isn't just dislike. This isn't just jealousy. This is a decades-long campaign to destroy me, isolate me, discredit me, and ultimately profit from my death. There's one more thing, Amanda says, and her voice breaks. Mom, this is the hardest part. She pulls up a document. It's a psychiatric evaluation report for Thomas, dated 6 months ago. I read through it quickly. Depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, history of financial stress. The psychologist notes that Thomas reports feeling controlled by his sister's generosity and inadequate in comparison to her success. Diane took Thomas to therapy, Amanda explains, but she specifically chose a therapist who specializes in treating people who have been victims of financial abuse and manipulation by family members. She's been coaching Thomas to reframe your entire relationship as abusive. Richard makes a sound like he's been punched. I just sit there, staring at the document, reading my brother's words describing me as someone who makes him feel small and worthless and controlled. Does he believe it? I ask. Does Thomas really think I've been abusing him? Amanda's eyes fill with tears. I think Diane has been working on him for so long that he doesn't know what's true anymore. She's gaslighted him for 20 years, Mom. Every generous thing you did, she reinterpreted as manipulation. Every gift she framed as a power play. And she did it slowly, carefully, until Thomas started to believe it. I think about my brother, my baby brother who I raised after our parents died, who I put through college, who I supported through business failures and financial struggles, who I loved unconditionally my entire adult life. And I realized Diane didn't just turn him against me. She changed his memories. She rewrote our entire history until he genuinely believes I'm the villain of his story. So what was the plan? Richard asks, his voice hard. What was Diane's endgame with this party? Amanda clicks to the final section of her presentation. Based on everything David uncovered, here's what we think was supposed to happen. Mary conducts the transaction with Victor. If everything goes smoothly, she makes money and continues working with him. But Diane knew there was a risk of getting caught. The DEA has been circling Victor for months. People in that world talk. She pulls up text messages between Diane and Mary from 3 days ago. Diane suggested Mary make sure Mom was at the party with Sophie. If the raid happened, Evelyn Hartwell, wealthy retired businesswoman, would be present at a drug trafficking bust with her 7-year-old granddaughter. The scandal would be enormous. James takes over. Think about how it would play out. The news coverage. Prominent Boston businesswoman present at drug raid. Even if you weren't charged with anything, even if you were completely innocent, the association would damage your reputation. Diane would use it to support her narrative that you have poor judgment, that you're not the perfect person everyone thinks you are. And social services would investigate why Sophie was there, Amanda adds. They'd question your judgment as a grandmother. Diane would back Mary up if Mary claimed you knew about the party's real purpose. She'd have her friends testify about your controlling behavior. The whole thing would become a mess that would occupy you for months, maybe years, while Diane positions herself as the reasonable one, I say, understanding now. The one who's been trying to warn people about me all along. Exactly, Amanda confirms. And with you discredited, Thomas fully under her control, and a paper trail of you being investigated by police and social services, her case for contesting any inheritance becomes much stronger. Richard turns from the window, his face flushed with rage. She was willing to destroy you publicly, to put Sophie at risk, to let her own daughter go to prison, all for money that she wouldn't even get for years, maybe decades. It's not just about money, I say quietly. It's about winning, about proving she's better than me, about making me suffer for the crime of having more than her. My phone buzzes. It's Thomas. I ignore it. It buzzes again. A text message. Evelyn, where are you? Police are here. They arrested Mary. Diane is hysterical. We need you. I show the text to Amanda. She shakes her head. Don't respond yet. Let me tell you what happens next. She closes her laptop and looks at me with steel in her eyes. The DEA raided the party at 7:15 as planned. Viktor Petrov and 4 of his associates were arrested. Mary was arrested for money laundering and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. The evidence against her is overwhelming. She's looking at a minimum of 5 years in federal prison, possibly 10. What about Diane? Richard asks. Can she be charged? That's complicated, James says. She didn't directly participate in the money laundering. She knew about it, she encouraged it, she helped hide assets. But proving criminal conspiracy is difficult. However, he smiles coldly. There are other ways to make her pay. Amanda pulls out another folder. This is a civil suit for defamation. David Brennan documented dozens of instances of Diane making false statements about you to third parties with the intent to damage your reputation. We have witnesses willing to testify. We have recordings. We have written communications. If we pursue this, she'll lose everything. There's also the matter of the $200,000 loan, Richard adds. We have documentation that it was a loan, not a gift. We could demand immediate repayment. Thomas and Diane don't have that kind of money. And the mortgage I paid off? I ask. That was a gift, Amanda says. But we could argue it was procured through fraud, that Diane misrepresented your relationship with Thomas to induce you to keep giving money. It's a stretch, but it's possible. I look at these 3 people who actually love me. My husband of 35 years who tried to warn me. My daughter who spent 48 hours frantically gathering evidence to save me. My son-in-law who's ready to use his legal expertise to protect me. This is my real family, not the one I tried so hard to create with Thomas and Diane and Mary. This one, right here. What do you want to do, Mom? Amanda asks gently. This is your decision. We can go scorched earth. We can destroy them legally and financially. Or we can walk away and cut them out of our lives completely. Or we can try to salvage something with Thomas, if you think there's anything left to salvage. My phone buzzes again. Another text from Thomas. Please answer. I don't understand what's happening. Did you know about this? Why did you leave? I stare at that message. My little brother, confused and scared, reaching out to me, still expecting me to fix everything, still expecting me to save him. But the difference is, now I know what he thinks of me, what Diane has convinced him I am. I need to see him, I say finally. I need to look Thomas in the eye and ask him if he believes what Diane has been saying. If he really thinks I've been abusing and controlling him for 30 years. I need to know if there's any part of my real brother left, or if Diane completely destroyed him. Are you sure? Richard asks. Evelyn, he's going to want money. He's going to want you to fix this mess with Mary. I know, I say, but I need to know the truth. I need to hear it from him. Amanda nods slowly. Okay, but we do this on our terms, not at their house. Here, with all of us present. And Mom, you need to be prepared for him to choose Diane. You need to be ready for him to believe her version of you instead of the truth. I know, I whisper, but I don't know. Not really. Because how do you prepare for your only sibling, the person you raised and loved and sacrificed for, to tell you that he thinks you're a monster? I text Thomas back, "Come to Amanda's house. We need to talk. Come alone." The response is immediate. Diane should be there. This affects her too. I type back, "Alone, Thomas," or "Not at all." 3 minutes pass. Then, "Okay, I'm leaving now." Richard puts his arm around me. "Whatever happens, we're here. You're not alone in this." But I feel alone. I feel like everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. Like the past 20 years were just an elaborate performance, and I was the only one who didn't know it was a show. Thomas will be here in 20 minutes, and then I'll find out if I've lost my brother forever, or if there's any chance of saving him from the poison Diane has been feeding him for 2 decades. Either way, nothing will ever be the same. Thomas arrives 37 minutes later. I watch from Amanda's front window as he parks his car on the street. He sits there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, head down. When he finally gets out, he looks 10 years older than he did at Christmas. His hair is grayer. His shoulders are slumped. He's wearing jeans and an old sweater. And for a moment, I see the 17-year-old boy I raised after our parents died. Lost, scared, looking for someone to tell him everything will be okay. But I'm not that person anymore. I can't be. Amanda opens the door before he can knock. "Uncle Thomas." "Amanda." He tries to smile, but it fails. "Your mother said we need to talk." "We do. Come in." He follows her into the living room where Richard, James, and I are waiting. The manila envelope is on the coffee table. Thomas sees it, and his face goes pale. "Sit down, Thomas," I say. My voice is steady but cold. I don't recognize it as my own. He sits in the armchair across from me. His hands are shaking. "Evelyn, I don't know what's going on. The police came and arrested Mary. They said she's been laundering money for drug dealers. That can't be true. She's just a kid. She makes stupid decisions sometimes, but she's not a criminal." "She is a criminal," Amanda says flatly. "She's been working with Victor Petrov's organization for 4 months. She's moved over $800,000 through her accounts. The evidence is overwhelming. She's going to prison, Uncle Thomas." He flinches like she's hit him. No, there has to be a mistake. Mary wouldn't." "Mary would and Mary did," I interrupt. "But that's not why you're here. You're here because I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." Thomas looks at me and I see fear in his eyes. "Okay." I lean forward. "Do you believe I've been controlling you? Do you think my generosity over the past 30 years was actually manipulation? Do you think I've been abusing you financially?" The silence that follows is the loudest sound I've ever heard. Thomas opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. "Evelyn, it's not that simple." "Yes or no, Thomas? It's very simple. Do you believe what Diane has been telling you about me?" His eyes fill with tears. "She said you make me feel small, that you never respected my career or my choices, that you only give me money because it makes you feel superior." "I asked if you believe it," I say. "Not what Diane said. What do you believe?" He's crying now. My 54-year-old brother is crying in Amanda's living room. I don't know. I don't know what I believe anymore. Sometimes I think Diane is right. Sometimes I remember how things used to be before I married her, and I think maybe she's wrong. But she's my wife, Evelyn. She's been with me through everything. How can I not believe her? Richard makes a disgusted sound. Amanda's face is stone. I feel something inside me break cleanly, like a bone that's been cracked for years finally snapping. "Did you know about the party?" I ask quietly. "Did you know Mary was meeting with Victor tonight?" "No. God, no. I thought it was just a birthday party. I knew Mary was making money somehow, but I didn't ask questions. I should have, but I didn't." "Did you know Diane wanted me there with Sophie when it happened?" He looks confused. "What?" Amanda picks up the envelope and pulls out the printed messages between Diane and Mary. She hands them to Thomas. "Read the last conversation, from 3 days ago." I watch my brother's face as he reads. Watch the color drain from his skin. Watch his hands start to shake harder. When he finishes, he looks up at me with horror in his eyes. She wanted you to get caught in the raid. She wanted Sophie there. She wanted to destroy you. Yes, I say simply. But why? Why would Diane do that to you? You've been nothing but generous to us. You've helped us over and over. Because she hates me, Thomas. She's always hated me. And she spent 20 years convincing you to hate me too. I don't hate you, he whispers. Maybe not, but you resent me. You believe I look down on you. You think I use money to control you, don't you? He can't meet my eyes. That's my answer. Amanda speaks up, her voice hard. Uncle Thomas, do you know that Diane has been consulting with an estate attorney for 3 years? She's building a case to contest any inheritance you receive from Mom and Dad, claiming undue influence and financial abuse. She's planning to challenge their will after they die. Thomas's head snaps up. What? No, Diane wouldn't. She would, and she has. Amanda pulls out more documents. Here are her emails with the attorney. Here's the psychiatric evaluation she had you do, where she coached you to describe Mom as controlling and abusive. Here are recordings of her telling people that Mom has damaged your mental health with her manipulation. Thomas takes the documents with shaking hands. He reads for several minutes while we all sit in silence. I watch emotions play across his face. Confusion, disbelief, dawning horror, and finally, a kind of broken recognition. She said the therapy would help me understand my feelings, he says quietly. She said I needed to process my relationship with you in a healthy way. She chose the therapist. She sat in on some of the sessions. His voice breaks. Oh God, she's been manipulating me. All these years, she's been rewriting everything in my head. Yes, I say, she has. He looks at me, and I see my brother clearly for the first time in years. Not the man Diane created. Not the resentful, diminished version of himself he's become. But the real Thomas. The one who's been buried under 20 years of psychological manipulation. Evelyn, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have known. You should have, I agree. But you didn't. You chose to believe your wife over your sister. You chose to accept her narrative instead of trusting our history. You chose her. What do I do now? He asks desperately. How do I fix this? I stand up. Richard stands with me, his hand on my back. You don't fix it, Thomas. You can't. You make a choice. You divorce Diane. You get real therapy from a therapist she doesn't choose. You start the hard work of figuring out who you really are without her voice in your head. And maybe, someday, we can rebuild some kind of relationship. And if I don't? His voice is small. If I stay with her? Then you stay away from me. From Amanda. From Sophie. From all of us. Because I will not let that woman anywhere near my family ever again. And if you choose her, you're choosing to not be part of this family anymore. Thomas puts his face in his hands. His whole body is shaking with sobs. I feel Richard's hand squeeze my shoulder. I feel Amanda standing beside me, solid and strong. I feel nothing but exhaustion and grief and a strange kind of clarity. I need to think, Thomas finally says. I need time to process all of this. You have 48 hours, Amanda says, her lawyer voice cold and professional. After that, we're filing the defamation suit against Diane. We're demanding repayment of the $200,000 loan, and we're making sure every person she lied to knows the truth about what she did. If you're still with her when that happens, you'll be caught in the fallout. Thomas stands on shaky legs. He looks at me one more time. I love you, Evelyn. I know you don't believe me right now, but I do love you. I know you do, I say softly. But love isn't enough, Thomas. Not when you don't trust it. Not when you let someone convince you it's actually something ugly. He walks to the door. Amanda follows to let him out. We hear the door close. Then Amanda comes back and wraps her arms around me. You did the right thing, Mom. Then why does it feel like I just lost my brother forever? Because you might have, Richard says gently. But you didn't lose him today. You lost him 20 years ago when he married that woman. Today, you just finally stopped pretending he was still there. The 48 hours that follow are the longest of my life. Thomas doesn't call. He doesn't text. There's just silence from him, which somehow feels louder than any conversation we could have had. But Diane calls. Oh, Diane calls constantly. The first call comes at 6 in the morning the day after our meeting with Thomas. I'm lying in bed next to Richard, neither of us having slept much, when my phone starts ringing. I look at the screen. Diane. I let it go to voicemail. She calls again immediately, and again. On the fourth call, Richard takes my phone and answers it himself. Diane, this is Richard. Stop calling my wife. I can hear her voice, shrill and frantic, even from where I'm lying. Richard's face hardens as he listens. No, Evelyn will not help you pay for Mary's lawyer. No, she will not talk to the prosecutors on Mary's behalf. No, she will not be giving you any more money. Ever. He pauses, listening. Because you spent 20 years sabotaging her, lying about her, and planning her destruction. That's why. He hangs up. The phone immediately starts ringing again. This time, I turn it off completely. Amanda calls my cell phone an hour later from her office. Mom, I got a call from a lawyer named Susan Chen. She says she represents Diane and wants to discuss a settlement to avoid litigation. Settlement? We haven't even filed anything yet. I know, but Diane is panicking. She knows what's coming. Susan Chen is actually a decent attorney. She's going to try to negotiate some kind of deal where Diane admits to nothing but agrees to stay away from you in exchange for you not pursuing the defamation case. What did you tell her? I told her we'd consider proposals in writing. I also made it very clear that any settlement would require a full divorce from Uncle Thomas. That's non-negotiable. I think about that. Diane, forced to give up the man she's controlled for 2 decades. It feels like justice, but it also feels hollow. And Thomas? Have you heard from him? No, but James drove by their house last night. Thomas's car is in the driveway. He's still there. Still there. Still with her. Still choosing her, even knowing everything he knows now. The pain of that hits me fresh, like the wound is new, instead of 2 days old. On the morning of the second day, I'm sitting in my kitchen in Beacon Hill drinking coffee when the doorbell rings. Richard goes to answer it and comes back looking grim. It's Thomas. My heart lurches. Is he alone? Yes. I follow Richard to the front door. My brother is standing on my doorstep, looking like he hasn't slept since I saw him last. His eyes are red and swollen. He's wearing the same clothes he wore to Amanda's house. He looks destroyed. Can I come in? He asks. I step aside. He walks past me into the house he's been in 100 times for family dinners and holidays and celebrations. But this time feels different. This time feels final. We sit in the living room. Richard stands by the fireplace, arms crossed, watching Thomas like he's a threat. I sit in my usual chair. Thomas sits on the edge of the sofa, hands clasped between his knees. I tried to talk to Diane, he says without preamble. I showed her everything. The emails with the attorney, the recordings, the messages about the party, all of it. And? She said you fabricated it. That Amanda hired someone to create fake evidence because you've always been jealous of our marriage, that you can't stand that I chose someone over you. I almost laugh. It's so absurd. And you believe her? No. He looks up at me, and his eyes are devastated. No, I don't believe her. Because when I accused her of lying, she didn't deny it. She got angry. She said I was betraying her by even questioning it. She said, after everything she's done for me, after putting up with your control for 20 years, I owed her my loyalty. So what did you do? I packed a bag. I'm staying at a hotel. He takes a shaky breath. I told her I want a divorce. Richard's posture relaxes slightly. I feel something loosen in my chest, but I don't let hope in yet. Hope has betrayed me too many times. Where does Mary fit into all of this? I ask. Thomas's face crumples. I went to see her. At the detention center. She wouldn't look at me. She just kept saying that this is all your fault, that you should have warned her about the raid, that you knew and you let her get arrested because you've always hated her. I didn't know about the raid until Amanda called me. I told her that. She doesn't believe it. She believes what Diane told her, which is that you orchestrated the whole thing to destroy our family. He wipes his eyes roughly. I've lost my daughter, Evelyn. She's going to prison, and she thinks I'm a traitor for not standing by her mother. You haven't lost her, I say quietly. She's 25 years old, and she made terrible choices. But she's alive, and she can serve her time, and maybe, eventually, she can become someone better than who Diane raised her to be. Diane raised her to hate you, I let that happen. I let Diane poison our daughter against you for her entire life, and I told myself I was just being supportive of my wife. Yes, you did. He flinches at my words but doesn't argue. I called that attorney, Robert Fletcher, the one Diane was working with about contesting inheritances. I told him I'm not participating in any legal action against you, that I never authorized him to develop that strategy. He said Diane told him I wanted it, but was too afraid of you to say so directly. She's painted you as a victim for so long, she started to believe it herself, Richard says from his position by the fireplace. She's convinced she was saving you from a terrible person. That's how people like Diane work. They rewrite reality until they're the hero of every story. Thomas nods slowly. I'm going to get therapy, real therapy, from someone I choose. I'm going to try to understand how I let this happen, how I let her change the way I saw you. He looks at me directly now. But Evelyn, I need you to know something. Even when I was doubting you, even when I was believing Diane's version of things, there was always this voice in the back of my head saying it wasn't true, saying you weren't who she claimed you were. I just didn't listen to it. Why not? Because it was easier to believe her. Because if I admitted she was manipulating me, I'd have to admit I'd wasted 20 years of my life with someone who didn't really love me. I'd have to admit I'd let her damage my relationship with the only family I had left, and that felt too big, too painful, so I just kept going along with it. I understand that. God help me, I understand it perfectly, because I did the same thing. I ignored every warning sign, every red flag, every moment of discomfort, because admitting the truth would have meant admitting I'd been wrong about everything. What do you want from me, Thomas? He's quiet for a long moment. I want to earn your trust back. I want to be your brother again, the real me, not the person Diane created. But I know I don't have the right to ask for that, not after everything I've allowed to happen. You're right, you don't have the right to ask. But I'm going to give you a chance anyway. Not for you. For that 17-year-old kid I raised after Mom and Dad died. He deserves a chance to become who he was supposed to be. Thomas breaks down completely. He puts his face in his hands and sobs like a child. Richard and I sit there and watch him cry, and I feel a strange mixture of pity and anger and grief that I can't quite name. When he finally gets control of himself, he looks up at me with red, swollen eyes. What happens now? With Diane and the lawsuits and everything? Amanda will send you the settlement terms. Diane signs a confession admitting to the defamation. She agrees to permanent no contact with me, Amanda, and Sophie. She doesn't contest the divorce and doesn't ask for alimony. In exchange, we don't pursue civil damages and we don't go after the mortgage money. And the loan, the $200,000, that needs to be repaid, not all at once. We'll work out a payment plan you can actually afford. But Thomas, it's a loan. It always was. I need you to acknowledge that. He nods. I acknowledge it. I'm sorry I let Diane convince me otherwise. What about Mary? Richard asks. What does she need to know? Thomas takes a shaky breath. Mary needs to face the consequences of her choices. But I'd like to tell her that you offered to pay for her lawyer, not to get her off, but to make sure she has good representation, that you still care about her even after everything. I think about that. My niece, who helped her mother plan my destruction, who was willing to use my granddaughter as collateral damage, who laughed about how easy it was to get money out of me. But I also think about a little girl I held in the hospital 25 years ago, a child who was poisoned against me before she was old enough to form her own opinions. I'll pay for her lawyer, I say, but only if she agrees to real therapy. Not just whatever the prison provides, but actual treatment with a therapist who specializes in family systems and manipulation. She needs to understand what her mother did to her, how she was used. Thank you, Thomas whispers. You're more generous than I deserve. I'm not doing it for you, I say honestly. I'm doing it because Mary is also a victim here, even though she became a perpetrator. Someone needs to break this cycle. Thomas stands to leave. At the door, he turns back. Evelyn, I know I can't fix what I've broken, but I'm going to try to become someone worthy of being your brother again, even if it takes the rest of my life. It might, I say, and I'm not making any promises. You're going to have to prove yourself through actions, not words, for a long time. I know. After he leaves, Richard comes and sits next to me. He takes my hand. How do you feel? I don't know. Sad? Relieved? Angry? All of it at once? That's fair. This is going to take time to process. Do you think he'll actually go through with the divorce? Or will Diane find a way to pull him back in? I think he'll go through with it, Richard says slowly. I saw something in him today that I haven't seen in years. I saw the Thomas who existed before Diane. He's buried under a lot of damage, but he's still in there. My phone rings. It's Amanda. Mom, you need to turn on the news. Channel 7. Richard grabs the remote and turns on the television. There's a press conference happening. A woman I recognize as the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts is standing at a podium with FBI and DEA agents behind her. Earlier this week, federal agents arrested Viktor Petrov and 5 members of his drug trafficking organization. This operation has been distributing cocaine and prescription opioids throughout New England for the past 3 years. We also arrested Mary Hartwell, age 25, of Boston, on charges of money laundering and conspiracy. Ms. Hartwell had been working with the Petrov organization to launder approximately $800,000 over a 4-month period. The camera cuts to footage of Mary being led out of the detention center in handcuffs. She looks tiny and scared and so young. My heart aches despite everything. The U.S. Attorney continues, I want to be clear that Ms. Hartwell was not a victim here. She was a willing participant who profited significantly from these crimes. However, we do believe she was influenced by individuals in her life who should have protected her instead of enabling her criminal behavior. The reporter at the press conference asks a question I can't quite hear, but the U.S. Attorney's response is clear. We are investigating other individuals who may have had knowledge of Ms. Hartwell's activities. No additional charges have been filed at this time. The camera cuts back to the news anchor in the studio. The Hartwell family is well known in Boston's business community. Mary Hartwell is the niece of Evelyn Hartwell, the retired real estate developer who... Richard turns off the television. Well, that's going to be interesting. My phone is already ringing. Friends, business associates, people I haven't heard from in months, all suddenly concerned and curious. I don't answer any of them. Instead, I call Amanda. How bad is this going to get? Media-wise? It'll blow over in a week. You weren't there. You weren't arrested. You're not under investigation. The only thing connecting you to this is being Mary's aunt, and that's not a crime. Diane's going to try to use this against me somehow. You know she will. Let her try. We have documentation proving you had no knowledge of Mary's activities. We have evidence showing Diane did know and did nothing. If she tries to spin this, it'll only make her look worse. That evening, Diane's attorney sends over the settlement terms. She's agreed to everything. The confession, the no-contact order, the divorce without alimony, all of it. Amanda calls me after reviewing the documents. Mom, this is happening faster than I expected. Diane's completely capitulating. She's not fighting anything. She knows she lost, I say. She knows if this goes to court, everything will come out publicly. The recordings, the emails, the conspiracy, she'll be destroyed. This way, she at least keeps some dignity. She doesn't deserve dignity. No, she doesn't. But I'm not doing this for revenge, sweetheart. I'm doing it to protect us, to make sure she can never hurt us again. When do you want to finalize everything? As soon as possible. I want this over. I want to move on with my life. Okay, I'll have everything ready by the end of the week. I hang up and look at Richard. It's really over. The legal part is. The emotional part is going to take longer. He's right. That night I dream about Thomas as a teenager, devastated and lost after our parents' funeral. I dream about holding him while he cried, promising him I'd always take care of him. I dream about Mary as a baby, so small and perfect in my arms. I dream about family dinners and holidays and moments of laughter that I thought were real. I wake up crying. Richard holds me in the dark while I grieve for the family I thought I had, for the 20 years I spent building something that was never really there, for the brother I lost to a woman who saw him as a possession instead of a person. But when morning comes, I get up. I shower and dress and go downstairs where Richard is making coffee. Sophie is coming over today. Amanda is bringing her for a visit. My real family, the one that actually loves me, is coming. And that has to be enough. It has to be. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my garden in Beacon Hill watching Sophie plant tulip bulbs. It's late October, and the air has that crisp quality that means winter is coming. But right now, in this moment, everything feels peaceful. Grandma, how deep should this one go? About 6 inches, sweetheart. Use the measuring stick. She carefully measures and digs, her tongue sticking out in concentration the way it does when she's focused. She's 8 now, taller, more confident, completely unaware of how close she came to being caught in Diane's trap that day at the party. Amanda is inside the house with Richard, going over some final paperwork. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. Thomas signed over his half of the house to Diane as part of the settlement, then immediately moved into a modest apartment in Cambridge. He's paying me back $2,000 a month on the loan, which will take him 8 years to repay. I don't need the money, but he needs to repay it. He needs to understand that borrowing has consequences, that my generosity was real and not manipulation. We have dinner once a month now, Thomas and I. Always at a restaurant, neutral territory. The conversations are awkward and careful. We talk about his therapy, about his work, about safe topics that don't cut too deep. He asks about Amanda and Sophie. He doesn't ask about the money or the past, or whether I've forgiven him. He seems to understand that forgiveness is something that will come slowly, if it comes at all. Mary is in federal prison in West Virginia. She'll serve 4 years of her 5-year sentence if she behaves. I kept my promise and paid for her lawyer, a good one who managed to negotiate the lower sentence by arguing that Mary was vulnerable to manipulation. The lawyer I hired also connected Mary with the therapist I requested. According to Thomas, Mary is actually engaging with treatment. She's starting to understand what her mother did to her, what she did to herself. She wrote me a letter last month. It was short and awkward, full of crossed-out words and obvious struggle. The main point was clear, though. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm starting to understand how wrong I was about you, about everything. I wrote back. An equally short letter saying I appreciated her honesty and hoped she'd use this time to build a better future. I didn't say I forgave her. I'm not there yet. Maybe I never will be. But I acknowledged her attempt, and sometimes that's enough. Diane disappeared to Florida as predicted. She sold the jewelry I'd given her over the years, sold her car, sold everything she could convert to cash. Thomas heard from mutual friends that she's living in a small apartment in Tampa, working as a manager at a department store. She's tried to contact him 4 times. He hasn't responded. His therapist says that's healthy. The media storm lasted exactly 9 days. There were articles about Boston real estate heiress Mary Hartwell and her drug trafficking charges. A few reporters tried to connect me to the story, but Amanda shut that down quickly with a statement clarifying that I had no knowledge of Mary's activities and had, in fact, left the party before any arrests were made. The business community in Boston rallied around me surprisingly. Several prominent people who Diane had spoken to over the years came forward privately to apologize, saying they'd realized in hindsight that she'd been lying about me. The most surprising call came from Susan, the woman from church who'd been in one of David Brennan's recordings. She called to apologize for believing Diane's stories. "I should have known better," she said. "Your actions never matched what she was saying about you. I'm sorry I didn't question it." I told her I understood. That's what Diane was good at, making lies sound like truth, making poison taste like concern. "Grandma, I'm done with this row." Sophie stands up, brushing dirt off her knees. "Can we plant the purple ones now?" "Absolutely. Let's do the purple ones along the back fence." We work together in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sophie says, "Mommy told me that Aunt Diane wasn't very nice to you." I glance at Amanda through the window. We'd agreed to be honest with Sophie about what happened, but in age-appropriate ways. "That's true. Sometimes people aren't who we think they are." "Is that why we don't see Uncle Thomas very much anymore?" "Uncle Thomas is working on being a better person. That takes time. But we still see him sometimes, right?" "Yeah. He took me for ice cream last week. He seemed sad." "He is sad. He made some mistakes and now he's trying to fix them. That's hard work." Sophie nods seriously. "I like that he's trying, though. Mommy says trying is important, even when it's hard." "Your mommy is very smart." We finish planting the bulbs just as Amanda comes outside. "Mom, everything's signed. It's officially done. The last of the paperwork. The final settlement documents. the closed chapter on 20 years of my life. How do you feel? Amanda asks, sitting on the garden bench. Lighter, I say honestly. Sad, but lighter. She nods. That makes sense. You lost something, but you also let go of something that was hurting you. Sophie runs over and climbs into Amanda's lap, getting dirt all over both of them. Amanda doesn't care. She just wraps her arms around her daughter and rests her chin on her head. This is what family looks like. Not perfect, not without pain or complication, but real, honest, built on actual love instead of manipulation and resentment. Richard comes out carrying a tray with 4 mugs of hot chocolate. I thought we could use something warm. We sit together in my garden, the 4 of us, drinking chocolate and watching the sun set over Boston. Sophie chatters about school and her friends. Amanda talks about a case she's working on. Richard tells a terrible dad joke that makes Sophie groan and Amanda laugh. And I realize that this is enough. This is more than enough. This is everything. My phone buzzes. A text from Thomas. Thank you for giving me another chance. I know I don't deserve it. Having dinner with my therapist's recommendation for a support group tonight. It's for family members of people with personality disorders. I think I need to understand what happened to me. I text back, proud of you for doing the work. Let me know how it goes. His response is immediate. I will. Love you, sis. Love you too, I type, and I mean it. I love the brother he used to be. I love the brother he's trying to become. The brother he was under Diane's influence. I'm learning to let go of. Amanda sees me texting and raises an eyebrow. Uncle Thomas? He's going to a support group for family members affected by personality disorders. That's actually really good. That means he's serious about understanding the dynamics. I think he is. It's going to take years, but I think he might actually do the work. And if he doesn't, then I have this. I gesture to the garden, to my family sitting around me. I have you and James and Sophie and Michael. I have Richard. I have friends who actually care about me. I have a life that's rich and full without Thomas in it. He's not my responsibility anymore. He's a grown man who needs to save himself. Amanda smiles. Look at you setting boundaries. I'm so proud. I learned from the best, I say, reaching over to squeeze her hand. Sophie finishes her hot chocolate and announces she needs to wash her hands because they're absolutely disgusting with dirt. She runs inside, leaving the 3 of us adults in the garden. Mom, Amanda says quietly, I need to tell you something. I'm pregnant again. Joy floods through me. Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. It's a girl this time. We found out yesterday. She's smiling, but there are tears in her eyes. And Mom, I want to name her Evelyn, after you, if that's okay. I can't speak. I just nod and pull my daughter into my arms while Richard pats both of our shoulders, his own eyes suspiciously bright. You saved me, I whisper into Amanda's hair. That day with the phone call. You saved my life. You saved mine first, she whispers back. You showed me what strength looks like, what it means to be a woman who builds something real. Now I'm just returning the favor. We sit there as the sun finishes setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sophie comes back out and demands to know why everyone is crying, and we laugh and tell her they're happy tears. She seems satisfied with that answer and goes back to examining the garden for worms. Later that night, after Amanda and her family have gone home, after Richard has fallen asleep beside me, I lie awake thinking about everything that's happened. The betrayal, the discovery, the confrontation, the resolution. I think about the woman I was 6 months ago, standing at that party with my champagne glass, completely unaware that my world was about to shatter. That woman was kind but blind, generous but naive, loving but unable to see when that love was being used against her. I'm not that woman anymore. I'm someone harder, someone with clearer boundaries, someone who understands that not all family is worth keeping, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. But I'm also still someone who plants gardens with her granddaughter, who pays for lawyers for nieces who betrayed her, who gives her brother a chance to become better even when he doesn't deserve it. I'm complicated now. Scarred but stronger, hurt but healing. And in the morning, I'll wake up in this beautiful house with this good man beside me, and I'll call my daughter, and I'll live my life surrounded by people who actually love me. Diane tried to destroy me. She spent 20 years plotting and planning and poisoning, but she failed because she underestimated the one person she should have feared most, my daughter, the one who saw through everything, the one who saved me. And now I get to watch that daughter raise her own daughter, who will carry my name and hopefully my strength without my naivety. That feels like the truest justice of all. I close my eyes and sleep peacefully for the first time in months, knowing that tomorrow will be better than yesterday and that I have the family I always wanted. It's just smaller than I thought it would be, but it's real, and real is worth more than any fantasy.